In this back to basics kind of movie, we're going to look at a couple of different ways to try to deal with blemishes, as you see here. So I'll zoom in now. When I worked with this model, Hilda, she apologized for her face having broken out a little bit, and I said, that's okay. I can use it in an upcoming video. So she agreed that I could do that. So let's take a look at the different ways where we can try and address problems like this. And I'm going to suggest that the first place you probably want to start is a spot healing brush, simply because it's the quickest and the easiest, because all you basically do is have it set. This is where it should be at the beginning. Proximity match brush with a hard edge, and just do a very slight amount of painting, just slightly bigger than the problem, and as you can see, it pretty much goes away and pretty much works. Now, the only time you might have a problem with this is if you're trying to come too close to an edge of something, and then you would start to see a bit of an issue there. Now, in cases like that, I don't have anything in this particular instance, but if I did, one of the ways that I could try to avoid that happening would be to make a selection first, and then when I'm working with the spot healing brush, it'll only work in that area and won't be affected by the nearby surrounding areas. So I'm gonna head over to my history palette. I'll just show what I'm doing here. I'm just going back to the very beginning so I can show you some alternate approaches. Now, one of the things that you might want to consider doing, I'm just going to bring in my layers palette so you can see here, is in case you want to change your mind, here's an interesting approach. Add a new blank layer and then make sure that your tool offers this option, sample all layers, and watch the difference what that means when I do the same thing that I did before with the spot healing brush. It still does its work, but the difference is it's on a separate layer. So now if I either wanted to change my mind or decide that I wanted to undo that a little bit so they're still slightly visible, which of course with blemishes you'd have to decide if you really want that or not. So that's another option. So if the spot healing brush doesn't work, then the next step I would suggest would be the healing brush tool. And it takes one extra step, but it lets you be a little more specific, where you can determine where you want to use as an area to fix the problem. So you hold down Option or Alt and click once nearby in kind of a similar color area, and then do your brushing, and as you'll see, it kind of blends in. So each time I'm moving to a new area, as you can see the cursor change, I'm holding down the Option or Alt key and just doing one click and then a little bit of painting. Now the same rule applies here. Same couple of rules apply. First of all, don't go too close to any definite edge, and secondly, you see it also has the option of sampling all layers. So I would try either of those first. The other option, which is another choice, is the patch tool, and this lets you surround the problem. Make sure it's set to source, and it says up here source destination. Imagine this says problem and fix, because I'll show you the difference. If it's set on source, which is the problem, it means you identify or surround the problem. Then as you move the cursor to a different area, see how you can preview and say, okay, I don't want to use that. Somewhere in about here looks pretty good, and then the problem is fixed. If it's set to destination, it works the other way around. You select the fix and then drag that on top of the problem. So that's another approach to take. And finally, let's undo these one more time. Finally, the other approach to take, if none of these work, and I'd suggest they probably will, would be to use the clone stamp tool and make one important change. Normally it looks like this, set to normal, but if the problem, like in this case, is it's a little too dark, you change the blend mode to the opposite, which in this case would be lighten. Still Option or Alt click once and then paint over the area that's the problem, but what should be happening, because we're set to lighten mode, it should only be affecting the pixels that are darker than what we have selected when we click. So basically that just narrows down the areas it'll fix. So once again, I would try using the spot healing brush, then the healing brush. If those don't work or don't work the way you want them to, the patch tool. If that doesn't work, then the clone stamp tool. Just one thing to remember, of all these tools, the patch tool is the one tool where you cannot do it to a separate layer. All the other ones I've mentioned have that sample all layers function, which gives you a bit of a chance to change your mind. Now this movie focused on removing blemishes, but of course if you use these tools the way you can have them remove just about anything if you really want to. Not that you'd probably want to. I'm Dave Cross. See you next time.